Oh, Renee, what's up with this? I was like, did I miss something? That's what I said. I know, I looked at it like 4 times. I'm like, 1, 2, what?
Yeah.
Righty, Danny.
Are we gonna have to, hey, are we gonna have to, I'll just start.
Okay, sir. Hey, I'm making it. Or you haven't changed the clock yet. You're not like that, Ricky. It's not like the clock. I can't reach that.
I'm not gonna even try.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 4 minutes, 3 minutes. So many things going on.
Not really. I mean, there's nothing going on.
Hello, Jennifer.
I just thought Karen and coming tonight.
Oh, it's because they got those historical plaques.
Okay.
Oh, so I gotta change my
He
pants.
almost dropped it.
Hi, Bobby Chan. Hi, Tony. Nice to meet you. Absolutely.
There's sunshine over there.
That's been rain the whole time.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor.
Okay, change my password.
I brought you a pencil because I knew you would need one.
Thank you. Lord.
Oh.
I will in a second.
Want to get a phone call?
Phone's off.
No, I said
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's March 14th, 2023 Graham City Council meeting. If I could please ask Pastor Thorpe to please come forward to give our invocation. Please bow your heads.
God, we thank you, first of all, for allowing us to see another day. We thank you for the rising of the sun. We thank you for this fine leadership tonight. God, we pray blessings on our efforts tonight. We thank you for the council. We thank you for our mayor. We thank you for her leadership as well. We thank you so for the city manager. We thank you for the entire council, but also the citizens of Graham. Lord, we pray your blessings. We pray that you continue to guide us and lead us. No wonder they would say you're the one of it all. So just have your way. Bless our efforts as we move steadily in unity and ambiguity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. If you want to introduce yourself, Pastor Thorpe, as to your church.
Absolutely. I'm Pastor Reverend Dr. Derek Thorpe, pastor the First Baptist Missionary Church. And Mayor, I'm going on 7 years. And so, we thank God for the vision you're leading as well. So we want to continue to partner and just come together and do what God has called us to do. So thank you for welcoming me as well.
We thank you for what you do in the community. Appreciate you being here tonight, do our
Appreciate you.
invocation. Now I'll ask everyone to stand to give our pledge of allegiance.
The flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to recognize Fire Chief Tommy Cole to please come forward and talk to us a little bit about the Graham Fire Department Awards.
I'm getting old, Mayor. I had to get glasses for the first time in my life. Madam Mayor and council members, it's my honor to be before you tonight to recognize several of the Graham Fire Department members for accomplishments during 2022. Last month in February, we held our annual awards banquet. So it's for the 2022 awards and activities that were done throughout the year. So I'll share with you and the audience just a few statistics about the fire department. We responded in 2022, we responded to 2,441 calls for service. Of those, 816 were fire related calls, 1,625 of those medical related. Out of those 816 fire calls, 23 of those were structure fires. We also responded to 167 motor vehicle accidents and a number that we never like to see, but it is part of our statistics, as we responded to 47 cardiac arrest events in Graham. So we'll talk about the medical life saves in a minute. I did want to go ahead and recognize our award recipients for our of the year awards that we do. And as I call those names out and I'll talk a little bit about those members, if they're here, I'll have them come up and stand in the front of the podium here, if that's okay. The first is our 2022 Rookie Firefighter of the Year. This is Mason Mayton. Mayton joined the fire department March the 1st, 2022. So he's fairly new. Mason graduated from the Alamance County Community College Fire Academy, and he's in EMT school right now. So he's trying to get a few of his things behind him. Mason is very active in our department. So did Mason make it a chance? I don't think Mason was able to be with us tonight. Our 2022 Volunteer Firefighter of the Year. This award is sponsored by our Ladies Auxiliary and has been sponsored by them for several years. The person that won the 2022 Volunteer Firefighter of the Year is Dennis Bullis. Let me share some things with you about Dennis. So Dennis has been a member since February the 1st, 1979. That's a long time. Dennis retired here in this past February the 1st, with 44 years of service to the fire department and the community. So that is to be commended. He has recently, or has in the past served as treasurer of the Volunteer Firefighter Fund and also treasurer of the Graham Firefighter Relief Fund. So not only do I want to recognize Dennis for Volunteer of the Year, but for 44 years of service to our community. So Dennis, if you'll come forward, please. Dennis wasn't able to be with us at our event, so he will receive his award and certificate tonight in front of the City Council. So. You probably have heard me say this before as we've talked about longevity and stuff, members serving 44 years. That'll be hard to beat. We do have one member that has served longer and is still active, but the way times have changed and people have so many things to do in life that someone serving 44 years is probably going to be a hard thing to see again. But congratulations to Dennis, and we thank him for his years of service. Our 2022 Career Firefighter of the Year is Matthew Bratcher. Matthew's here on time. He showed up late to our awards banquet, so I'm proud that he showed up here on time. So Matthew, if you'll come forward, please. Matthew joined the fire department on February the 1st, 2020, and he's assigned as the senior FEO, which is like the fire equipment operator and the driver on B shift. So Matthew Bratcher.
He says he showed up late, but I heard that he came back early from a vacation. Appreciate it.
The next award that I'll present is our 2022 Officer of the Year Award. This award was given to Captain Kevin Squires. Kevin's been a member since February the 5th, 1998. Kevin works full-time for another municipality that we will not name. But we're proud of Kevin's accomplishments. His son Gavin is a explorer with our program. So he's following in his dad's footsteps. And Angel, his wife, is here and she's part of our auxiliary too. So Kevin, if you'll come forward, please. Yeah, Kevin's family was with us on the award day, so they received the award on Kevin's behalf. One of the awards that I have the privilege of presenting every year is the Fire Chiefs Award. So obviously I'm the only one that votes on it, so that my person wins. So anyway, the 2022 Fire Chiefs Award was presented to Chaplain Daryl Peoples. Daryl has been a member of our department since January the 1st, 2003, and he is retiring with 20 years of service. There was a lot of nice things shared about Daryl. Captain Cook said a lot of nice things, but Daryl has kind of been our spiritual leader and kept us in check all the years along, and really probably provided more services to us than we could ever repay. So Daryl, if you'll come forward.
You all want to say anything?
So I intentionally didn't allow anybody to say anything, but when the preacher gets up, you almost have to give him the mic. So, but if anybody else would like to say anything, you're welcome to as well.
I told them before it's dangerous, but I want to thank the city for the opportunity to serve here. And Jerry Peterman's here. Jerry tried to get me to be a chaplain for quite a few years. And I'm very busy. I always have been. And I just didn't know that I could put another thing on my plate. And then I was watching the television when the Twin Towers were hit. And at that point, I was already 52 years old. And the first person they brought out that was dead was the chaplain. And I felt like there was a vacuum and somebody needed to fill it. And so that's why I started, and I created enough space. And I told Jerry I had to be trained. I wasn't just going to just pray. And so I went through all the training, became a firefighter too, to serve alongside these guys. And the real reason that I did that was to give it 110%, and to understand what they were going through, to be able to relate to them also. And I've been blessed with so many opportunities in the fire department and the various aspects of the fire department. I'm just real grateful, and I appreciate these years of service. And this month I'll be 74. And I think it's time to pray and not crawl around on my knees, just get on my knees and pray.
Thank you, Derek. Dennis or Matthew, do you have anything you want to share? I forgot to give you the opportunity. Thank you. We're very proud of those individuals, and that those awards are voted on by their peers. So someone has to submit their name as a nominee for the award. We had several names nominated in each category, and then the awards committee sits down and review those. So those are strictly by their peers, not one person that picks them. So that's what makes it even more special, is that that's being done by their peers. So moving on. So as I mentioned before, we had 47 CPR calls in Graham in 2022. And I wanted to recognize, we presented 2 medical lifesaver awards, which means that the CPR was successful. The patient went into the hospital, they were admitted, and they came home. So not only did they go to the hospital, but they did come home and hopefully having a very good quality of life. So I wanted to recognize the members that we presented those medical lifesaver awards to. So on February the 8th, 2022, we had a successful CPR save. That was presented to firefighter Chris Presley and firefighter Matthew Bratcher. Chris works for the town of Hall River full-time. He may be on duty tonight, but he's not with us, but Matthew Bratcher is the recipient of that award. On October the 2nd, 2022, we had another successful CPR save that was presented to firefighter Clay Davis. Clay, if you'll stand. Captain Chris Stokes and Captain Kevin Squires. So Matthew, if you'll stand too, those are your medical lifesaver recipients for 2022. Sure. Thank you, guys. And typically we make the award recipients, we notify them and give them their awards in the spring and February following the year that these happen. However, we have a very special one that I wanted to recognize tonight. So I know it. I know it. This is very, very special. First, I'd like to invite Vic and Joanne Pate, if they would come forward for a moment and stand with me. So on February the 3rd, 2023, the Grand Fire Department was dispatched to I-40 westbound between Main Street and Maple Avenue for a motor vehicle accident. That was along with Alamance County EMS and North Carolina State Highway Patrol. Car 10, which is myself, Engine 10, and Engine 30 responded for a highway response. As I arrived, I found Trooper Kirby, and luckily we have our highway patrolman here with us tonight too. I found Trooper Kirby trying to make access into a vehicle that ran up against the retaining wall. I noticed right behind me as I pulled up, Trooper Everly. Did I say that right? Thank you. He was coming in hot behind me, and I thought, wow, that's unusual to have another trooper coming that hot. And so as I pulled up, I asked Trooper Kirby, I said, "What you got?" He said, "I think it's cardiac," or something to that effect, which surprised me, right? I mean, even though we respond to a lot of these calls and we should expect these things, the type of accident and the damage to the vehicle really didn't indicate that was probably going to be the situation. So if my memory serves me correctly, both the troopers worked hard, got access into the vehicle. I was getting my stuff out of the vehicle, waiting on the engines to arrive. And they said he doesn't have a pulse. We pulled Mr. Pate to the ground and we started CPR. That was done by the troopers as I was getting my med bag and defib stuff out to start rendering care. About that time, Engine 10 pulled up and Engine 30 pulled up. We began blocking people. Our staff began coming up, and we started CPR, and Captain Cook delivered a shock with an AED. That shot is what they say saved Mr. Pate's life. So I'm gonna call these people up if they'll come forward. I just wanted to recognize them while we have the opportunity. Mr. Pate's recovering at home, doing well. He said if we hadn't been on his chest so hard, his wrist probably wouldn't hurt as bad. But we'll take that, right? We'll take that. So Trooper Caleb Kirby, Trooper John Everly, and Captain Jason Cook. The other members that are not with us tonight, I don't think, unless they slid in, Captain Michael Quigley, FEO Haston Watson, FEO Rod Patterson, and FEO Sean Riley were on the scene with us. But we just wanted to recognize these people and let them have a chance to meet Mr. and Ms. Pate. This will be the first time. Thank you all so much.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm in touch with you. Just kind of wanted to wrap up. We run a lot of calls with our highway patrol partners and our police department, and we have such a great working relationship. We know these guys by first name. They know us. We respond to a lot of times to assist them, and sometimes it's not always an injury, it's just a wreck. But if you've been on the highway and you can imagine how dangerous it is just driving on the highway, you should go and stop on the highway and let everybody come blowing by you about 80, 90 miles an hour. So a lot of times we're blocking on the highway, trying to protect our troopers and our police officers. And this is a type of call that, like our mayor said, just kind of sends chills up your back that this happened on the interstate highway, a medical event that someone almost lost their life, but because of the quick actions of the highway patrol and the Grand Fire Department and EMS, they were just a little bit later getting there than we were. Mr. Pate is is doing fine, and he's a Graham resident. That's even better. That's even a better story. So I thank you for this opportunity. Again, congratulations to our award recipients, and I appreciate the city council recognizing our members.
Thank
Thank
you so much. Well, I think I can speak for the entire council to say how much we appreciate our service members that work here for the city of Graham, and so happy to have you here with us. I'm sure your wife is thrilled that there was such a quick response to you being in a really precarious situation. And thanks so much to our partners, the Highway Patrol, for what you guys do every day. Keep us safe. And this is a good story that we like to have a happy ending. So wish you the best of recovery and back to good health. So mhm.
I meant to say this. It's just another piece of the story. So I'm in Leadership Institute, which is a program put on by Impact Alamance, and we go once a month in Burlington to our meeting. It's a day long, learning how to be better leaders and so forth. So just this past first week of March, I went, and as I sat down, a lady that has sat beside me many, many times sat down beside me. She tapped me and she said, "You saved my dad's life." It was their daughter. So that just kind of tells you the whole story about how it comes together, you know. And I talked to Vicky 1,000 times. She works at the clerk's office.
Mhm.
Talked to her 1,000 times, you know, in our meetings and so forth. But, you know, just that connection, and it's just something special. And I just want to share that too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks to all our first responders for being here tonight. We greatly appreciate you. The next item on our agenda is the Historic Resource Commission, and I would like to recognize Chairwoman Zipporah Baldwin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, council members, city officials, and all interested parties. Again, my name is Zipporah Clark Baldwin, and I'm the chairperson of the Historic Resources Commission of Graham, North Carolina. And the Historic Resource Commission is here tonight because we were asked last year whether or not if we would like to take on a project completing the historical markers and plaques for the downtown historic buildings. And of course, we found it very interesting and well-serving and deserved. So we took on that assignment. And since that time, we've done some thorough research and been able to come up with several quotes, which we can present to you tonight in these packages. If we can approach the chamber, please. Those packages are going to indicate all the materials, quotes versus brass to a covered material. And these handouts are very clear and self-explanatory. The cost, materials, the Historic Resource Commission would like to recommend the brass. We have spoken to several vendors, 3 of those being local vendors, and we have found that the HRC says that the bronze material will be more durable, more weatherizing, and so we have come today to recommend that to be the material that we use for these plaques. The HRC was gifted $5,000 to help assist with this project and upon the plaque commission of our historic buildings. And we're here to ask for $5,000 to be released along with the matching $5,000 to complete the first order of 10 plaques. HRC is recommending that the GCC, the Graham City Council, consider the estimate for a local vendor, Berkshire Corporation, submitted by Russell Haynes, who is the production supervisor. And they are located locally here at 6509 Franz Warner Parkway, Whitsett, North Carolina. And we have included the telephone number and fax number. We will work along the side of the council to have proper paperwork and procedures completed for this order. We are prepared to submit information, invoices for purchase orders, and et cetera. Having said that, we are asking when might the funds be released? How soon would they be available? For when making an order, we're going to be required to make a down payment. Please note that it's our thought that once the first 10 are ordered, the descriptions can follow. We would use the city logo, the city seal. We can, or we don't have to. That's going to be decided upon the entire body of the persons interested. We understand that there's a group of people, citizens, along with some of the town officials that have also taken interest in this project, and we're very happy for that. There are several of us that's not that familiar with the downtown historic buildings, and we welcome the opportunity for more concise information to be on those plaques because they will be everlasting once they are installed. So with that being said, on the behalf of the HRC, please feel free to take your time in getting the descriptions made, but we do want the funds released as soon as possible so we can start the completion of the project and move on to other business at hand. Any questions about the materials?
Is the, has anyone like actually taken a plaque that, you know, because several of these plaques are already up, and I just think it's important for there to be a consistency. Like they've taken the plaque to since this place is local and said, you know, we want something. I think the ones that we have now are bronze, aren't they?
Yes, they are bronze.
Okay,
It's
and
already installed.
so that, and they've lasted and they look great and fine, but like the way they're designed and everything with like the pivoting, like they have like pitted areas and stuff, and the logo and all of that, so that there's a consistency among the plaques.
We have not actually taken one because that means that we'd have to remove it
I
from the
think-
building, but we do have an example of one that we have a picture of.
Yeah.
It's going to be very easy to provide the recommended source one on your paper with a photo of what we'd like to have put on the plaques.
Okay,
And what we're presenting, the cost that's being presented tonight is also, it's including 90 characters. And we can go with or without the seal. And some instances, we found that there were recurring fees for making separate orders. So at first we were thinking, well, we need to know exactly how many buildings and we need to get them all just pre-printed. This particular vendor has not mentioned that. So we are very happy to hear that because it was going to be a $600 recurring fee each time a set of plaques were being made. So hopefully it did not overlook that because we did ask specifically about it and we're
The
being
setup
told.
fee for source number 2, if you want to use a logo, there's automatically a $600 setup fee for logo. Let's say, for example, in fact, the example they gave that the Arboretum wanted 5 plaques. And they came back and said, yeah, we also want our logo on there. So it was a $600 setup fee plus the cost for their 5 plaques at about $600 each. And then as they were putting up the 5th plaque, they decided they wanted another plaque. And as a result of that, it being a subsequent order, that incurred a requirement for a setup fee again. That was for source number 2. I understand your puzzled look because I had the same puzzled look, but that is source 2. Source 1 there with Mr. Haynes, that was not, we had asked that, and that's not a problem. So the recommendation is on source 1 is for the same size. We have measured the existing plaques and they're about 10 by 14. And so the price quotes that you're looking on there, about $100 difference, I think, between source 1 and source 2. So it appears to us that there's about $2,800 in that would cover 5 plaques. And double that would get us to the 10. The committee looked at, identified about 20 buildings. And it's also a matter of what the council would like. You're running into, it's just like, what kind of car do I buy? Well, it depends on what your needs are and how much money you want to spend. Do you want to put plaques on every downtown building that you have? Or do you want to prioritize it? So each of these plaques, I think we need to figure on anywhere between $500 and $600 per. So if there's $5,000 left, that probably would cover 5 plaques. Another 5 plaques would be another $5,000. So perhaps the council would like to provide us with a second addition of 5,000, and that should get us to a group of 10. Now, should the council decide they want to put plaques on every building that's downtown, we have listed about 20 of them, and we did try to have people who were longtime residents here set down some priority. And both the chairwoman and I are not Graham residents. I'll be more than happy to proofread, do final look-ats. I personally don't want to have anything to do with what is put on the plaques, because these are your buildings. And we need to have people who have lived here and have the connections to the buildings and the residents and the businesses that have inhabited those buildings since those buildings were put up. So that's what we're looking at this point. You have a little bit of background there. I know the Tallies, the Petermans who were here, the Rhines. Initially, for those of you who don't know, the plaques that are downtown, which probably most of us have walked by and never really paid much attention to. But those were funded in part by gifts from Graham residents. And there was still about $5,000 in our treasury. And we were asked by the mayor, would we take a look at continuing that project? And so we literally did a walk around in October to identify which buildings actually had plaques. And so after that, it's what else do you want to put up? So we could cover 10. And I think there's been folks like Walter Boyd and some other folks who've been longtime residents here who would be the best ones to decide what is to go on each of the plaques for each building. Additionally, it would have been nice to be able to take one off the building, or perhaps there was one that somehow never got installed. It would have been a great sample to take. That would be helpful.
I think Chuck has one that's
does he?
off a building right now.
And that would be a really.
And the reason why I
Yeah.
think it might be a good idea for you to take that is because I'm almost sure, and I can't remember, because like I've looked at them 100 times, but I want to say they have raised lettering. And I think it's, when you're looking at something on a piece of paper versus like a physical thing, I just want to make sure that the price quote you got was correct. I was actually expecting it to cost a little bit more than this, but yeah, I think, that I think that we have a lot of walkable traffic
Sure
downtown.
do.
And I do see people reading the plaques. And, I think that if we can identify kind of the importance of why the building's historically significant.
Exactly.
And, the state gives different degrees of contributing, whether it's a contributing building, whether it's pivotal to the historic nature of the downtown, or whether it's just infill, right? And so, kind of definitely, I think, identifying the antebellum buildings, the pre-Civil War buildings. There's only a handful of those even still around in North Carolina. I think that's important to note. And in doing the research, kind of feel like a little detective. I had a good conversation with Walter Boyd to see if he would help you guys on this project, and he just got really excited and just had a lot of enthusiasm. And I believe his mother who grew up in Graham had gotten, I mean, just so many stories to tell. So I think that that's interesting, not just for visitors, but for locals that have grown up here that maybe don't
Exactly.
know some of the older stories. One of them was that I mentioned to both of you was about the Hardin House, and that Abby and Torgy, who they have a state marker in Ohio for, was actually doing his work that he's known for civil rights here in Graham while staying at the Hardin House on Hardin Street. And for those of you that don't know who Mr. Torgy is, he founded Bennett College. And that was something that he needs to be recognized for. I mean, there's obviously the state marker in Ohio where his childhood home was, but as a child, he wasn't doing that important work. He was doing that important work here. So I think, recognizing him in some way, whether it's through these plaques or some other way, I think is something that is a positive thing and makes people, maybe Google on their phone who he is. So being able to share your community story with visitors and with people that are the next generation, I think is a positive thing. And I greatly appreciate your work on trying to put this together.
Now, what you have in front of you, all of the list of the buildings that we would recommend have come from this 2015 inventory. And on the Hardin House that is noted in here, they do mention about Albion Torgy, but the mayor has provided us some extra information, and that's really what we're looking at. So at this point, this was a starting place to let you know that we would recommend there could be a cost. I'm sure that the bronze plates are put up in the 90s, or at what point that all of those went up. They're going to be far more costly now than they were at that time. So it's a matter of budget, and we kind of need some direction from you. But if there was a group of 10, the existing funds is there to cover about half, and an additional 5,000 then would 5 and 5 is 10. That takes care of 2 chunks. And then the next step would be to get with our source, give him some information. If he could see an example, if Chuck does have an actual plaque that we could either photograph or take up to them. Now, his location is in Whitsett. So those plaques can be 35 to 40 pounds. They're pretty heavy, 10 by 14, if they're brass. So if he could actually see what was up there, then they would be able to reproduce it. But we just needed to touch base and let you know that we did follow up with this and are looking at a group of 10. And should you want to do 20, we have a list of other beyond that buildings that people recommended were special in that order. And also the text that you have, the mayor has some draft for the first group of 10. I simply took those from the index that maybe not all of you have. This is part of the historic resources. And it was a study done by the National Register of Historic Places when the downtown was determined to be a historic district. So it was the only baseline we had. It was something that was documented and was part of the handbook, even though it's only 2014, 2015. We were not able to find some of the buildings because they've come down. Councilman Hall helped me figure out, oh, well, that building doesn't exist anymore because if you look over here, this is there. And of course, 2015 to 2023, there have been so many uses have changed. Your inhabitants, your renters, your owners, your businesses have changed. The tax numbers have changed as far as their addresses are. So this is where we started, and this is where we are, and we'll take whatever guidance the council is able to provide us. And we special thanks to Councilman Parsons for sitting through our meetings and helping us out with comments. So it's good. The liaison program that goes from the council to your commissions is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And in closing, so we would like to just thank everyone for their interest in preserving the downtown historic buildings. That is one of our main objectives as the commission, and helping us with this project is very useful. So thank you again, Councilman Parson. You have been a great help, and everyone that's been digging in.
Yeah.
And I forgot to even introduce my right hand because my left doesn't work anyway. So this is Karen Chin. And she has been just such a joy to work with and very easy to collaborate information over phone, via email. We have met at sometimes 2 to 3 hours and she's never complained. So you have very dedicated citizens here. We're very interested in getting this project off the ground. And we just need to know a date that we can kind of take back to the Historic Commission and say, by this date, we should have a check so we can get this project started. So thank you each for your time and for your consideration of this project. And hopefully it will be something that you will find that will be useful for our great city of Graham. And we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on to our consent agenda. A, to approve February 14th, city council meeting minutes, to approve the budget amendment ordinance increasing the city council's travel budget from 4,000 to 7, to approve the following tax releases in the amount of 366.48.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? In regards
Madam
to,
Mayor,
yeah.
Can you just comment on the reason for number 2, the travel budget?
COVID, they weren't having any meetings. We weren't having a lot of meetings that we were having to go to. The league wasn't doing meetings and things. And then when we did our budget, I don't think we had enough money in our budget to be able to attend the meetings that we go to. But is that fair assessment?
Yeah, there was 4,000 budgeted for this existing fiscal year, and the 7,000 is closer to your pre-COVID numbers, including the increase in cost like you see for pretty much everything these days.
Yeah. And then the public comment period, Jackie Fortner is here. If you'll come forward and talk to us about your Big C concert. May 13th, 2023, from 4 to 9 p.m.
Good evening, Mayor, Honorable Council. So yes, I'm here to bring up a proposal to you all. So the Big C concert, let me explain how this got started real quick. So 4 years ago, when COVID hit us real bad in 2019, right in the middle of it, everybody was locked down, right? Nobody could do nothing. Couldn't even go visit your youngins. So myself, Ken Beverly, and Rusty Cox of Cox Toyota got together and decided that we needed to have a gospel concert, and couldn't have it nowhere because of government property and the lockdown. So Rusty said, you can have Cox Toyota's private property and we do what we want to on it. So what we did, we partnered with the Maverick at the time. We partnered with the health department to give us guidelines. So we had a concert that you, like an old movie theater, you pulled up, except we had the Maverick to have it on your radio. And that year we used Alco Vets to help park. And that year we had somewhere around about 500 cars that came, and the cars were full and people were wanting to get out, but it was a good success. And what it did, it was called the Big C COVID event then. We wanted to honor all law enforcement, EMS, rescue, fire, nurses, teachers, council, people that had to be on the front lines. And it was a free concert. So we thought that was it. Well, then people went calling again and saying, hey, you gonna have another concert? So this is our 4th year. So we decided as an e-board, we finally got a 501c3, I'll probably mess that up. But we have an e-board now, and we want to move it to Graham. Okay, so I talked to Chuck Talley about behind Colonial at the amphitheater, and he was like tickled to death. And I said, would you pencil us in for May the 13th? Let's see what happens. So everything seems to be rolling, and I've never had to go before a council meeting to have a concert, okay? But that's what I'm here today for. What I'm asking for is this, and I want y'all to think about it before your next meeting. We've got vendors that are coming. We got food trucks. We have other vendors that are coming, like face painting people, things like that, that'll be on the sidewalk. And we would like to ask if we could, since this is a city street and not a state highway, to block East Elm from the east side of the courthouse to one block down to where the funeral home is, just for safety purposes, so the Alcovettes might can park some of their Army vehicles there so the kids come and can see what it is and they can meet some of our veterans. And we can just have a safe concert. Like I said, we've had everywhere from 200 people to 1,000 people to come to one of these. And just to give you a little insight, it's like the horns, the trumpets, there'll be a celebration choir there. There'll be choir music type, there'll be Southern gospel music, and of course, there'll be bluegrass gospel, which is my group. And we'll run it from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock that night. As we get closer to it, we'll be able to talk to y'all a little bit more, and maybe for the next meeting, if you decide to put it on the agenda, that we can close it. If we see we can open it up, we will be glad to let somebody know, so that we can open the street up. We just wanted safety. We want to bring these people to Graham. Okay, people in the county, a lot of people in the county, you'll be surprised, drive through Graham, but they don't know what Graham is. I'm just being honest. Okay, you got people on the south end, you got people on the north end, east and west. We're advertising still with Hope Radio and the Maverick. They're partnering with us to get out out on radio. So that goes all the way around Alamance County into all the surrounding counties. So we want to try to bring it and have a great time and let people walk around Graham, see what they drive around every day that they don't see, and just talk and fellowship and have a good time. So I'm asking tonight, if you would please, to entertain the thought of letting us with you shut down Elm Street for 1 block right there in front of Colonial Hardware from like 12 to 9, so that we can get the cars off the street and get the people moved in there safely, the vendors and stuff like that. And that's what I'm here for tonight, and answer any questions that you have.
So we have a rule that we don't make decisions about things that are not on the agenda, but I think, could certainly put you on the agenda for next month, and that would still be in time for your event, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and and I'm not getting any financial, even though I own the property where you're gonna be at, I don't get any money for that. I just wanna put that out there in the
That's
universe.
correct.
That we give it to you for free. But I'm fine with abstaining from that if any of the other council members want to do that. He's not asking for anything but a road closure, but
And this
Um,
is a free concert.
yeah, it's
This is not
free. It's
costing
not
nobody.
charging. And so anyways, is the council okay with putting that on the agenda for next month for a
Absolutely.
road closure? Okay.
I will say, I went to one of those over at Cox Toyota. And it was awesome.
Thank
And
you.
you guys had, I mean, the music was fabulous. It was really crowded. There was a lot of interest, and they sold a lot of different things like jewelry. They sold goods made out of, I bought a really neat statue that was supposed to be Jesus dragging his cross. It was made out of a nail. It was just really, they got some really creative stuff. I think it would be a really worthwhile event for Graham, just my 2 cents.
Well, thank you so much for bringing it to Graham. We greatly appreciate that. Yes.
I don't have any cards on me, but I want to give you my email address, just so you can shoot me an email. I sent
Okay.
the application because there are a couple of departments that we have to circulate to before
Okay.
it comes to council, just to make sure
Okay.
we get all our I's dotted, T's crossed.
Yeah, we have like a event review process.
Okay, I'll be glad to do that, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you all letting me come here and do this, and we want to put Graham on the map.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
That's what it's all about, okay? Thank
Yeah,
y'all.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We're
you.
excited. There's nobody else. Is there anyone in the chamber that, no one else signed up here, so, do you have anything, Josh?
The Albright Avenue water line, the first section, the main line is done, so the hanging home on Albright later this week. Certification's been done on the main line. And we're working on the 10-inch water line replacement.
They've started working on that?
We're
Design. Okay. All right, anything, Bob? Anything, Brian?
Just something quick, just gonna touch back on the email that I sent about the pedestrian plan update. The steering committee, they're looking to get a few more people on there. If you know anyone that's interested, or if any of you are interested. I know that we have asked for your assistance with the comp plan update, so this is the pedestrian one. If anyone is interested, please let me know, or if you know of anyone that's interested, that has interest in pedestrian safety, mobility, healthy living, anything along those lines, or just want to be interested in assisting with this. If you can send me their info, we'll reach out to them. They're trying to get a meeting by the end of this month, so the sooner the better. So if you have anyone or yourselves, let me know. Thank you.
So I'm interested in being on there. You have my name, right? Yeah, so, because I really would like to see a sidewalk down Elm Street and a road diet down Elm Street.
I hear you. Gonna get a roundabout too, or?
Don't get me started about the roundabout. Yeah, Bobby had mentioned that, and, before you even said anything, we've been trying to work with DOT about this roundabout, that was started by the previous council, and, there was a meeting that was done in February, the year we were elected, that Ricky and I were elected, in which the council voted unanimously to not move forward with any of the master plan projects without first having some more input from both the public and from the council itself directly. And that in the meeting minutes, Jerry was to notify DOT that, we needed to be able to do this, and that basically there wasn't real, based on the council makeup, there wasn't a consensus to move forward with these kind of things. And obviously DOT did not get the memo, or I don't know what the situation is, but they have moved forward, and we were getting notifications from property owners there that they were buying right away and marking things. And so we reached out to them again and said, hey, we have some revisions that we're wanting to do. And our engineer, reached out with concerns that some were concerns that I personally had. Some were concerns that I had heard from other residents, concerns from the person that owns the convenience store there. So we have another meeting scheduled. So we'll let you know how that pans out with DOT, but want to give you an opportunity to did you have any other concerns? I mean, one of the concerns that we had was about the blocking off of Walker Avenue, and that if you basically dead end that street and have no more connectivity to Elm Street, that anybody coming down Walker is just going to basically go through the convenience store to get to Elm Street. And they don't seem to be too concerned about that.
In fact, I was going to defer to Joey. But you and
I'm sorry. So it will be difficult for trucks to maneuver a roundabout, and not to mention you're taking people's private property to do something that the citizens really don't want. So that was just the concern there with the trucks. And, you got with the Children's Chapel there, it's kind of a historic building. They're gonna take part of their property, different things, so. That
I
was
mean,
my,
Yeah, so I don't know why the laundromat area, but that's the cinder brick building was of such concern to. It seems like the positioning of it, if you look at the way the roundabout looks, it's absolutely impossible for any kind of truck to make a right-hand turn coming, going east on Hardin Street. That's just an impossible turn. You can't do that. And the biggest concern, the whole reason, my understanding that it was even brought up to fix the intersection was because of trucks, but it didn't seem in my mind. Now they're supposedly going to be doing some modeling and showing us some modeling that transfer trucks are going to be fine going through there. I had done some research of my own that I brought to our engineer and talked to him about, obviously I'm not an engineer, but I'm smart enough to be able to look up to see what we're supposed to be following, that certain guidelines. There's like, I don't know, Josh, would you explain? It's like a SHTO green book, I guess, that supports certain roundabouts and the width of the roundabouts. And, obviously if you're coming into an intersection and you're supposed to be doing a circle, trucks don't bend, they're long and they don't bend. And if you're hauling a logging truck, they don't bend. And so to try to get a truck to go like this is just, they're just going to keep going over they're just going to go over the lip. And what I'm concerned about is with heavy duty trucks that have logs and things is the shifting of the load and all of that, especially coming from a 4-lane road down Hardin Street. I mean, they're getting it pretty good. And people that aren't familiar with that route, very quickly it goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes in that intersection. Hopefully, a tractor trailer will yield and slow down, but there won't be a traffic light there anymore. And I just have a lot of concerns about people feeling that the center circle is a pedestrian area that they can cross at. And it is not a pedestrian area that you can cross at, that I would want any kids crossing at, because if you're a tractor trailer and you're trying to make a left-hand turn or go around the circle to get onto Elm Street, that back part of your trailer is going to come into the circle. And so if you're a child and you're standing there and you're not paying attention, or if a truck driver's not paying attention, you can easily see where there would be a problem. But there's a lot of concerns about the impact of the roundabout. I certainly, want to go on record as saying that I did not support this. I'm hoping that DOT is open to some of the suggestions that redesigns, but I'm not optimistic. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, I'm not optimistic. DOT seems to want to not necessarily have the input from our engineer, which is not you know, it's not my opinion, it's not his opinion, I mean, it's a collection of concerns that I think that we've gotten that are legitimate concerns that need to be addressed. And when we didn't even know that this was moving forward, it was kind of moving forward, and we thought it was stopped, not once, but twice. We had a meeting and said that, to my understanding, all the DOT was not going to be moving forward with right-of-way purchases until some of the concerns were addressed. They did assure me this week, though, that it was being designed for, they have like, would you call it a rating, like a four log trucks, right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that was that. Yeah, so it's designed for, yeah. What we sent them was we sent them a series of questions that you and Aaron and I had discussed about concerns about the design of the roundabout, just to verify that it met what we expected and that it would be functional. And so they went through those and reviewed them and sent us information back, and at the same time offered to sit down and meet with you and staff and review the design, review the functionality of it. Why they preferred this, they looked at a series of different options as far as improving the intersection out there. I think that when we spoke with them, they said that they looked at 4 or 5 different options out there. And this was the one that they felt like had the least impact to the community while also functioning the best. If you compare the impacts between the two that they brought to the public hearing, this had the least impact on the neighboring properties, which was also the reason that it was projected to be the less expensive of the 2 options. They've offered to meet with us. I think it'd be wise to meet with them, sit down, talk through it with them before there's any consensus or council determination on how to proceed. I think that's probably the best way to do it, would be my recommendation. DOT builds roads for a living, and both of these are NC routes. So we're playing in their ballpark right now. And they've been very accommodating in their discussions with us. So we want to honor that and speak with them, I think, if that's possible.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do, move forward. It's just, when you talk, one of the things that you did talk, it's just, obviously we can't have a council meeting to have this discussion. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're letting all the council know, what, and that we're acting as if everyone, like if there's concern that other council members have, I need to know them before we meet with them. So that now is the time for that conversation. But, when you looked at the unpermitted vehicles, like the mobile homes, the school buses, the tractor trailers that are doubled, I just want to hear, because when I look at this, it just does not, maybe it's on paper, but it just does not look like a really good, it just looks difficult for me. If I was a truck driver and I was looking at this, I'd think, oh my goodness, I gotta do that with my double truck or my mobile home, or I'm serious. When I look at this, I would be concerned. And maybe the modeling will make me feel better, but the design of going down 54, it looks really, like the turning is very difficult.
Yes, and it can be. I think that part of what you're that auto turn program that they've run on it that verifies that the people, how the turns work and how the vehicles will work. It's pretty standard for lots of projects to use that, especially with trucks. So what I've seen experience wise is that if the auto turn says that trucks can make the turn, they'll make the turn. At the same time, we looked at a design somewhere else today that auto turn shows that this is how they'll do the turn. However, I know from a fact, I know that what they'll do is they'll take as much, absolutely as much area as possible while they're making the turn. Which is the same way that all of us drive vehicles to a certain extent. And in DOT's experience that this will work, but it is something to discuss and it's something to review. Absolutely.
What concerns did you have?
Well, basic concern is it's like roundabouts seem to be the latest highway fad. And you find roundabouts in some of the strangest places. But when you talk about community, I just came back from New Orleans. And they've got some roundabouts there. And when you got a tractor trailer rig come, they drive over half of it. Because to make it work, the roundabout for a tractor trailer has to be pretty wide.
They're not meant for tractor trailers.
Yeah.
DOT can say whatever they want, but they are not.
Yeah. But it seems to be the current highway fad. You'll find them out in the middle of nowhere. You know, I was out in Kansas. There was one out in the middle of, country, no traffic, roundabout. But I think the main thing is Hardin Street is a busy street. And as the mayor said, it goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes when it hits Elm.
You did check though that it's a WB 67, is that right? And so that's supposedly designed to be able to accommodate the big, heavy logging trucks and things. I mean, when you have the roundabout here, ideally the trucks are supposed to go here, but you can see the marked tires go clearly way up in here. And they obviously it's just, when you talk to them, they say, well, it's designed to do that. And I said, I understand that it's designed to do that, but a pedestrian, there's pedestrian walkways here, but a pedestrian that might think it's okay to, go from here to here and they're standing right there. I don't know. To me, it just makes me nervous. To me, it doesn't seem as safe to have any pedestrians at all in this area. And you don't have that to worry about that on Court Square because there's a building there, right? And you don't have, it's so wide that the tractor trailers aren't coming up on anything. I just, when people see sidewalk or concrete area, they assume, rightly or wrongly, they assume that it's a pedestrian sidewalk or pedestrian area where they can stand and be safe. And it just makes me nervous. In that area. I just need some reassurances, because obviously it doesn't take necessarily. Did you guys find out if it takes a resolution from this council for it to move forward?
Not to move forward
Not
in
move
order,
forward, no.
in order to halt it, it would take a resolution from the council.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
may I just comment on this just a moment? I would commend the mayor's efforts to reach out to, and the engineers to reach out to DOT on this, because I do agree with all you've said and Ms. Chen about how disastrous this would be in practice. But it seems to me, rather than just having the two of y'all meet, could the council not hold a hearing on the topic? Even though it's not a city street, neither of them is, But at the same time, it seems to me it has tremendous impact for the residents of Graham and would be a good way for the DOT to be invited to come to a public hearing in which not only the mayor's concerns can be expressed, but all the councilmen, but also the public at large. Because I doubt, now I hadn't looked up, but I would doubt more than a dozen people attended their little workshop or whatever it is they held a year or two ago. And yet this has tremendous consequences, not only for the owners that you've referenced in terms of losing wide swaths of their property, but it's going to create log jams, almost literally, but truly log jams of traffic in that area, in addition to the safety concerns. It just seems to me it calls for a higher profile of the council in both inquiring about it, and I would certainly urge that the council consider having a resolution against. If you'll remember, the council has had dramatic impact in the past on the bypass, for instance, that DOT was gung-ho for, was on their drawing boards for 10 or 20 years. But finally, the council took action asking that it be repealed, and it was. And so I think the council could be very effective in both highlighting the problems that this fad, as Mr. Chin called it, which I certainly agree with, would have in practice, as well as providing multiple sources of feedback for them to see how much people disagree with this approach.
Well, of course, we have brought that up, and they of course went to, well, we've already had our public meetings. We've already gone through this process. We had a public survey, where you choose either the roundabout or the traditional intersection. And my comment to that was, well, yes, you had a survey, but the option was not there to do neither, so of course the roundabout one, I in fact answered the survey, and I'm going to vote for the roundabout because it's the cheaper option. It was cheaper than the traditional intersection. I don't know why it was cheaper, but it was cheaper of the two. And so as a taxpayer, I was voting for that. But it seemed to me like there was a lot of consideration for what's not necessarily where a roundabout would best be located. And I think when they were trying to do everything they could to save the laundromat, it kind of like has moved the roundabout up on the property that is available there, so that basically when you're coming down Hardin Street, Highway 54 from town, instead of just doing a straight shot as it is now, you'd go up on the land that is vacant there, that has all the cars there on the corner, and then come back down. And then the gentleman that has the garage, his driveway, I don't even know if they would have access to that anymore. You could only access it on, you can't really tell from the design here whether they would even grant access there to that corner area. I think that would be cut off where he has access there to his property for the repair shop. No, right at the intersection, there's a repair shop that's catty corner from the laundromat. Yeah.
Car audio shop.
Aaron, when you look at the maps and when you look at the maps, it doesn't appear to me that he would have access anymore off of Hardin, that you'd have to turn right and then turn right again off of Elm Street to be able to access his property. And his property would be pushed out further. There's the issue with the mill that for so many years, it's been like right up to the road at that area, but they weren't interested in possibly working out any kind of arrangement with them to possibly push that building back further or taking an easement there. But I am quite concerned because the convenience store, which that property owner had turned that very blighted property into something really nice. And he's invested a lot of money, not just in improving the property, but in the overall aesthetics of the property. And to me, you know, years ago, when I heard that this laundromat was going in, I had inquired about, and I don't know if the same person owns it, but back then I had inquired and said, well, they were gonna put Albright Avenue, they were gonna do a, you know, the little thoroughfare there up through Walker. And they were gonna take in that laundromat from years ago. And so I don't know why, now that has to be somewhat protected. To me, if they're gonna, I guess when I thought and I was voting for the roundabout, I was thinking that they would be more open to making a lot larger, so that, because if the whole point of it is the trucks, you'd want it to be easily accessed, and a truck driver to want to be able to maneuver through there safely. And to me, it seems forced.
And if I could just interject to one of your earlier points, in terms of the price tag allegedly being lower. Now,
Significantly lower.
Now that they're saying the amount of land they have to condemn and the price that they're going to have to pay, they've already indicated a high price for paying for the car lot. They've indicated a skimpy amount to pay for the convenience store lot, even though they're gonna put that guy totally out of business and take his whole property, which is basically $1 million, I'm rounding. But in other words, that price is gonna go up substantially. And then if you're going to infringe on the garage in the C and or on the children's chapel, you're talking about a lot more land and a lot more expense.
Well, we did have a meeting, year ago now, with them, and it was my understanding that no more right of way was gonna be, purchased until, we could sit down and talk about it. And, apparently, they continued to buy right away. My understanding is they've already settled, not with any knowledge that we had at the time. They've settled with Children's Chapel. I think they're going to be settling with the people at the convenience store. And I'll tell you that one thing really determined the reason why, because I had talked to that property owner directly, because he didn't even know about the survey.
Convenience store.
Owner, yes. And because I just, as a good citizen, I would want somebody to call me and let me know that, hey, my property is looking at being condemned, or taken, by an encroachment. And so I talked to the gentleman, and he was upset about, because with alternative one, with the traditional intersection, they would have took his gas pumps. And roundabout had the least impact, but on the original plans that they had, they didn't even have he didn't even have any access on Elm Street, coming off of Elm Street. And the original one that they proposed that people voted on, there was a median there, so that if you're coming off Highway 54 and you're trying to get to the convenience store to get gas, you can't make a left-hand turn, which everybody in here knows. A person driving is just going to drive down Elm Street and make a U-turn in the intersection, which is more dangerous in my opinion, and then try to get back to get to the gas station. They're just going to go around the median, which is exactly what they're going to do with the end of Walker. They're just going to go, if you're sitting at Walker and you're at a dead end and you see that Elm Street's right there, you're not going to turn around and go all the way back up, go over to Hardin Street and then come back down. You're just going to drive through the convenience store. And that's really unfair to him. And the main reason why I voted for the roundabout over the traditional, it wasn't, it was less expensive, but it also hurt him less. It still hurt him, but it hurt him less. So we are working on it, and I appreciate the the council's input into it, and we'll definitely fight hard for the, for the citizens that it's going to impact. And if there's a way that we can have a public meeting, but I think that at this stage, DOT's like, regardless of what they're doing, regardless of, my impression is regardless of how we move forward as a council, whether we do a resolution or whatever, they seem to be pretty past that point of wanting to make any changes, and that's discouraging to me. But I'm gonna.
You can still have an impact, if I may say,
Ah.
and just encourage, and also to contact the legislators, because you need to have multiple prongs explaining to DOT that this is not a popular decision, not an effective or efficient use of a roundabout, and not a safe.
Well, and they want to bring up, well, it's okay with the public, but the total amount of people that I did bring up to them, I brought up a lot of these issues with them directly. It was, I said, well, it was only 40, 53, 61 votes cast out of, out of a city of, tens of thousands of people. So it's like not really a true, I think a true view of how people are viewing this. And obviously, if it's affecting your property, you're going to be have a lot more concern about it than somebody that doesn't have any property down there, and it's just an inconvenience for them. But anyways, we are trying to work on the roundabout issue, but do want to make it perfectly clear that is not the city of Graham moving forward with that project. We are not condemning people's property, nor would I doubt anybody on this council would be in favor of ever doing that. But
I have one more.
sure.
You've all seen that Sagebrush Restaurant has been renovated. The parking lot has been paved. It looks like, it's ready to be leased, whatever. And looking at the map, Briefs Turney Road, sure would be nice if it extended to East Crescent Square. Because right now, if you go to Popeyes or Bojangles, whatever, crossing over to go south, it's, it's Frogger. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think it would be appealing, you got the two properties one behind Bojangles, one behind Popeyes, that if you push the road through, those two properties would be developed. And it turns out those two properties are owned by the same development company. And I'm sure they're just waiting, because as it stands right now, for them to develop there without that road being completed, makes it tough for folks to come shop or dine.
So I did hear from David Morton, the owner of the remodeled Sagebrush, and he's got a lot of interest this week. He showed the property multiple times. And I had reached out to Aaron late last week or early this week and said, there's a lot of interest in putting a restaurant back in there, but everybody wants a stoplight. I kind of thought I had remembered from years ago that they had discussed putting a stoplight there, but it's way too close to the stoplight and the exit ramps there. So I think that's a no-go by DOT for a stoplight. But the Bruce Turney Road we had talked about, and Aaron was checking on some things about that.
Yes, and Megan and I had, spoken with Burke a little bit and Josh, and the idea of extending Bruce Turney is an idea that was thrown out years ago, and Allie Williams actually did some conceptuals of some options that would allow Bruce Turney to connect. I think it was maybe two options at that time. There's a third option that, we were exploring. The cheapest of any of the options, you're starting north of $2 million. just to be able to make that happen. And that's not counting everything that you would have to put into it to actually make it happen. I think Josh probably can give a little more insight. I know two of the options involved a creek crossing, which makes those options very, very expensive. Not impossible, but expensive. The cheaper of the options, which I said probably you're starting at around 2 million, doesn't have the creek crossing, but there are a lot of assumptions that would have to be taken care of. And that also includes acquiring the necessary space to actually put the road in from the county. Josh, you got anything you want to throw on that? Man, don't tell me I took your words.
I don't have anything left. I mean, we looked at it about 10 years ago, apparently. I was aware of it when we did it, but I didn't know the layouts. But yeah, I mean, it's the preferred option due to the environmental impacts, because the stream in between the end of Bruce Turney Street and the county property has a significant floodplain and floodway on it. So that's a significant cost to cross that. So the tie-in would not be to the kind of stub road that you think about being there. It would be further south, kind of like back behind where the park and ride is. And so you basically be coming in on the back of the park and ride and then tying on to Crescent Square. It would require significant earthwork, as well as the soils are probably not good. I think it's a very engineering term, but they're probably not good. And I think you're looking, I mean, I had it as about $2 million. Burke did his own numbers and came back with about the same thing. So I think does it make sense to have the street there? Absolutely. But is it expensive to build it? Absolutely. I don't remember if there is water or sewer on Bruce Turney, but that also might be an issue, but I don't remember how there's a sewer line comes up through the bottom.
The gas line comes up to there too also.
There's a very large there's a not insignificant gas line that goes through there. I don't remember exactly how big, but there is a potential issue there. The water is not actually in Bruce Turney. The water goes, if you think about it, Sagebrush gets their water from what we would consider where the on-ramp is for 40. So we would require, in order to make those two lots buildable, we'd also have to extend water to them. So
I guess I thought the land was behind there was owned by the county.
Behind Sagebrush.
the land where the land behind Sagebrush is owned by the county, but that's also where the floodplain is and the stream is.
Right, so why would you want to extend land through unbuildable property? I mean, I'm not understanding.
Eric, could you pull up?
If there's
map.
like, is there a better way to, like, I
Yeah.
assume that the reason that they stubbed out Bruce Turney Road was because it didn't make sense to continue to road through county-owned property that isn't going to be developed by a private individual, and, you know, and it's floodplain, it's not really buildable anyways.
That would be my expectation. Yes, would be that's
But
the reason
never-
it stops there is why that it stops there, because environmental, I mean, not environmental, like, but topographically, it makes sense to stop there versus trying to tie on.
At one time, the county property there was the old dog pound.
The old what?
Dog pound.
Dog pound.
Madam Mayor, one other factor, though, that you've alluded to that's different potentially, if the road were cut through at an angle or however, but was to
Can you
connect.
step up there so we can hear you?
If you were to connect the Bruce Turney to the Crescent Drive, one of the factors that might change the calculation about a stoplight would be the ability to have emergency services be able to get to the, to South Main Street.
Right.
And then on the interstate in either direction much faster. Even though I know all of their rules about not wanting to have close stoplights, that factor is one that they sometimes will change their minds about if it has an ability to improve emergency services. And if you
Well-
connected it and the EMS station is still where it is, you would.
There was some reservation, I think, some pushback from the county about putting the road through there because of some security issues in their mind that they were concerned about having a road and giving people the public access to their maintenance area or whatever. But I agree that fencing could be put in to alleviate that concern.
Also, I
Um,
think, Madam Mayor, if I could just suggest, I think some of that had to do with Prison Farm, which is
It's
no
not there
longer
anymore.
Okay.
operational.
So at this situation, I mean, you know, how we could, if we were to connect to Crescent Square to give parcels on Bruce Turney there a different exit, rather than trying to get out on Main Street. But how would you direct traffic? Because people, in my experience, go to the closest, like I'm trying to get to the interstate, why would I make a left instead of a right? Because the interstate's right there, the exit ramp's right there. I mean, is there a way that we could,
If you were going right, that would make sense, but if you want to go south, you're not gonna get out there, so you're gonna go down and
Go down
around.
the Crescent and turn.
Yeah.
is there a way to be able to direct traffic that way?
There is, you could do that through signage. You could do that through signage. I think so. So a couple of things. One is, I think traffic light wise at Bruce Turney, I think it's more of a, would it work versus a regulatory problem? And I don't think it would work. Cause you're now stacking a whole bunch of stoplights on top of each other. And those are high volume stoplight, high volume roads, both 87 and the on off ramps for 4085. So I think there would be a significant concern on what the time lag would be, and you're going to be backing up traffic that's going to wants to get off of I-40 East and go right. And now they're not going to be able to get clear of the on-ramp because you're going to have a light at the bottom and then another light immediately afterwards. So I think there's potentially a real problem stoplight wise, just functionality wise. If you're looking at that, just to describe the option one would be that basically you would think about getting to the end of Bruce Turney Drive and then going due south and skirting the edge of the floodplain and coming in, down there. So that would prevent you from having to cross the stream and the floodway. That would be the most economical one, while also not basically going right through the middle of the county's property. Functionally, would it work? Yes, it would work. It would do exactly what Mr. Boney described as far as making good access for the county. It would also make really good access for truck traffic to come down Woody Drive and go down 87, or come off of 87 and go down Woody Drive. So you would have to design it with that intent, knowing that that's going to happen.
Could we make Bruce Turney Drive a load requirement that they couldn't park tractor and trailers out there like they're parking them now?
You could, and I think keeping them from parking, that would be fine. And you would have to mark it as a low tonnage road, but then you're going to be dependent on what businesses are coming in there, because some businesses might want to be able to have somebody pull in, and there might be a higher volume or higher weight.
Let's just put in a
So when
roundabout.
they're, so EMS is coming down Crescent and then taking a right and coming back up there, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean.
I believe so. I mean, that would make sense.
Madam Mayor, I
You
would
know
like-
that, you see that, I know everybody has talked about going down or whatever, and I know it's expensive to cross that creek, but you see where that, up at the very top, Aaron, right there, that's a road that dead ends as well, and I thought originally Bruce Turney went up to connect there. Is that,
That's option two.
that was
The
option?
creek goes all the way up. The floodway stops there for whatever mapping reason, but the creek goes all the way up. You know,
But
what I
I
mean, it goes
mean-
underneath the interstate.
Yeah, you see,
Yeah,
that-
that was that's the, yes, that's the, that was the option two that was explored, that, yeah.
because obviously coming out of EMS, if they could connect there, that would be a lot better shot to get to the interstate than what they have now. Wouldn't it?
Geometrically, yes. Generally speaking, there are safety concerns anytime you're connecting straight onto the, on-ramp. People tend to turn on the on-ramp and hit the gas, and when you're trying to turn a, emergency vehicle onto the on-ramp halfway up.
No, I'm not saying turn,
Okay.
I'm saying connect. You see their stubbed out road right there
Mhm.
that leads to their parking lot at the top? Connecting that to Bruce Turney Road is a
Yeah.
shot for them.
That would geometrically, yes, but that's a $5 million plus connection.
Okay.
Crossing water.
That's a significant culvert crossing.
Is there some other alternatives that you see for getting traffic out of Sagebrush area back to?
Not now, but we can certainly look at it and come back to you with,
think-
if we can come up with anything.
I think their concern is, having traffic back up
Mhm.
right there, coming off the interstate, trying to take a left into Sagebrush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
That
we
is
can
just-
certainly, we can look into it.
And I think when we checked a couple of years ago, that was the number one area, that whole intersection right there is the number one area for accidents in Graham. Is that not true? I think that's correct.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. I don't know
I
that.
think it's the Hardin Road, the next exit, 148.
Oh, is it? Is this the second one?
Yeah, 148, I think has more, for some reason, has more traffic accidents.
Gosh, I never see them down there, but I always see them here.
But when we were living in Waterside, there were always accidents right there. For
Yeah.
some unknown reason, coming off 148, exit 148.
Well, if you could come back to the council, if you can look at any possibilities there with Bruce Turney Road for access to be able to move traffic easier in that whole intersection. I definitely think that DOT needs to look at that and the place where we have the most accidents on 54 to see if there's something that they can do to improve that, because it seems like on a weekly basis we have problems there. Bonnie, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Do you have anything? Joey,
Yeah, ma'am.
Ricky?
Yes, ma'am. Got a couple things. Add a couple people in the neighborhood up here at Gilbert and Holt Street or Holt Avenue. requested that we review that intersection for possible light. And I think we need a consensus from the council to direct staff to make a review.
Holt and what?
Gilbert,
You'll breathe.
yes,
Hey, do we have a consensus to have staff look at that?
I'm good with it.
I'm working with it.
I'm good
Okay.
with that.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Next,
Also would like to ask council that we include $6,500 in this year's coming budget for the Alamance County Transportation Authority.
for what?
Oh, what do you mean? Well, for services that they're providing to the city of Graham, there is a push to give all the funding that was for Graham to the Burlington Link system. And we're just trying to recover.
Do you want Graham to contribute $6,500 to the Links program?
And then for the Alamance County Transportation Authority,
Yeah, I mean,
the active group.
yeah, I'm not in favor of that, but, county decided to do that on their own, and in my opinion, they need to fund that on their own. They don't pay any property taxes, and they own a lot of property here in Graham. And I just don't, I've never voted in favor of that. It's come up several times.
Are not owned by the grant, by the county.
The county is what started Alamance Transportation.
First standalone entity now.
That's funded by Alamance County taxpayers.
They give $10,000, just like Elon gives them $10,000. Hall River gives around 5,000. Green Levels about 3.
Yep.
That's and that's it.
Well, I must say,
It'll be something we
Atka-
can consider.
we can consider it. ATCA came through when we had a veteran that we needed to get to Durham because the veteran was he was very large and we couldn't get him. He did not have the strength to climb into a van. So ATCA came through, kind of modified their policy about going outside Alamance County and got this veteran in one of their lift vehicles to the VA. So they provided the service that they didn't have to. So
I like ACTA. I do. But it was a project that was started by the county. And I guess I feel as a citizen of Graham that I pay both city of Graham taxes and I pay county taxes. And that money that the county's given them, I've paid for as a Graham citizen. And I don't know, I don't agree with, it was an afterthought where they then came back to the municipality and asked for the money. So, I mean, previous councils have always, it's been brought up numerous times and we've never voted in favor of it, but I think it's certainly something that I'm always open to listening to what people want to present. I just feel that I'm already paying that through my county taxes.
would it be worth our while to ask Atka to come and address the council and find out, are they a county agency? Because if they're a county agency, that means they get county funding. They get county funding, then we're paying the county taxes. So I'll agree with you there, Mayor.
I will add, if I may, we have received funding requests from ACTA, I know for the current fiscal year that we're in. So we can get some updated figures from them and just disperse it to council if you would like.
And maybe we should just discuss it because Ricky's not asking for it now. He's just asking for us to consider it in the budget. Just be part of our budget discussions. Have to be
Yeah.
an agenda item. All right, is there, if there's nothing else, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.